The last dictator we are going to be learning about is Hirohito. He lived from 1901 to 1989. Japan. Showa Emperor. Before World War II, the leaders of Japan were called emperors. For many centuries, the people of Japan thought of their emperors as gods. When Hirohito became emperor of Japan in 1926, he was no exception. People carried their reverence for their emperor to extremes. No one could touch him, and they were not even allowed to look at Hirohito in public. He was given the name Showa to represent his divinity and godlikeness. The title means enlightened peace. Here you can see a picture of Hirohito and his family in 1934. Hirohito was a thoughtful and reserved man. He enjoyed studying science. This helped Hirohito realize that he was not a descendant of the sun goddess as people believed. He often expressed a wish to live closer to his people and to see how they lived. Hirohito had a group of strong advisors. These men made most of the decisions for the country. They would ask Hirohito for his opinion, but he rarely objected to anything they recommended. The advisors decided that Japan should go to war against the United States during World War II. Hirohito went along with the decision. He signed all the necessary documents. Japan was proud of its military tradition. The nation had never been defeated in a war. The soldiers were fearless and not afraid of death, but World War II would be a different war for them. The Japanese had high hopes when they first entered World War II. In 1941, their attack on American ships in Pearl Harbor was a great victory for them. But defeating the Americans would not be as easy as the Japanese thought. Japan soon suffered serious defeats. Hirohito knew his people were in danger, but he did not take any action to end the war. He left the military decisions up to his advisors. The advisors refused to surrender and bring disgrace to Japan. If the United States did not act, the war would drag on and many more lives would be lost. August 6, 1945 is the date Japanese people will never forget. The Americans dropped the world's first atomic bomb in the city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, they dropped another atomic bomb on the city of Nagasaki. As a result, hundreds of thousands of Japanese people were killed. On August 14th, Hirohito met with his war council. In a broken voice, he asked them to surrender. He did not want his people to suffer any longer. Hirohito had been set so far above his people that he had not understood their needs. He did not see the wounded soldiers lying on the battlefields or the mothers grieving over dead sons. He had remained silent when an order from him could have ended the war that took so many Japanese lives. The Americans were generous to Hirohito after the war. They allowed him to keep his royal position as Emperor of Japan. But he had to announce that he was not a god. He also had to announce that the Japanese were not better than other races, as his people had been taught to believe. Under the leadership of General Douglas MacArthur of the United States, Japan's government changed to a democracy. In the new democratic Japan, the people elected representatives to govern them. In this picture, you can see General Douglas MacArthur and Emperor Hirohito. Hirohito lived the rest of his life peacefully. He toured places around the world, spent time with his family, and studied science. The Showa emperor died in January of 1989 from an illness. As emperor, Hirohito was like a dictator. He was the ruler of the country. However, Hirohito was different from Stalin, Mussolini, and Hitler. He was not a heavy-handed tyrant as they were, but he made the same mistake that they did. None of these rulers used his power for the good of his people.